From the former convent of the Good Shepherd overlooking Inwood Hill Park in New York City, welcome to Inwood Artworks On Air. It's where we meet the musicians, filmmakers, writers, theater makers, and artists of all stripes who make their home in what we affectionately call Upstate Manhattan. I'm your host, Aaron Sims, and today we welcome cinematographer, writer, and filmmaker Joe Foley. Joe is an award-winning cinematographer who has been working in the industry for over 2 decades. He has shot 18 feature films, including Killing Time, that premiered at Sundance, and Dogs, The Rise and Fall of an All Girl Bookie Joint, that premiered at Rotterdam. The last 2 features he completed, The Understudy and Brief Reunion, had successful runs in New York and Los Angeles and are currently available online. In addition, Joe has shot music videos and concert films with Leonard Cohen and U2, Dinosaur Jr., the Red Hot Chili Peppers, The National, and many others. He is a BFA in film from NYU and an MFA in film from Columbia University, and has gone on to share his experience by teaching filmmaking at NYU Singapore, Tisch Asia, Barnard College, SVA, Hunter College, the New School, and the University of North Carolina, Wilmington. We're going to talk to him about his work and so much more. But first, Joe, let me welcome you to Inwood Artworks On Air. It's great to see you.
Thank you. It's great to see you as well.
It's only been a couple years, so what have you been doing?
I've been doing a lot of things. I'm working right now on a documentary about Veselka, the Ukrainian restaurant in the
East
West Village. Yeah, and then I'm working on another documentary about female shaman and sea women of Jeju Island in South Korea, and so we're hoping to go there in July if the COVID numbers stay down.
Wow.
Yeah, so we'll be there for 2 weeks.
Amazing. I'm sure the Veselka one's hard to shoot right now because that place is hopping.
Yeah. Well, we were shooting all this week, and on Wednesday when we were there filming, there's 3 other camera crews, one from Japan, one from India, and one from Indianapolis had come talking, because it's sort of become this hub of support for the Ukraine. The Tom and Jason who own the place decided at the beginning of the war that they were going to donate all the profits from the borscht that they sell. And in 7 weeks, they've raised over $100,000, which is all going to humanitarian relief in the Ukraine.
That's a lot of borscht.
It's an awful lot of borscht, but I've had it every day that we've shot on it, and it's really delicious.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
In many ways, it feeds the soul and the stomach, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Well, you're one of the most prolific workers I know in the film industry, and first off, I should have started I'm proud to say that we're looking forward to showing Tumbling Towards Home at the Inwood Film Festival this June. It's been a long time coming.
Yes, yeah, no, that's great. That's a film that Emelda and I made in Ireland with a friend of hers. Someone, Malcolm Adams, who actually came to New York at the same time that Emelda did. They were both 19 years old, and they both were in the Irish acting circle. And then Malcolm had, he finally went back to Ireland 5 years ago. And he kept on getting cast as the American because he had, and he's been in 2 films that had gone to Sundance. He's been on, all the BBC series. He's doing really well, but it was just also about what it was like as a teenager in Ireland and what did Ireland have anything for artists at that time. And that's why a lot of people, a lot of actors and artists left Ireland at the time because there wasn't much, though that's changing now.
Well, we're looking forward to showing it. I mean, what would have been one of its early festival premieres 2 years ago is now probably might be rounding out its last.
Right.
I hate to say it, but at least we're making good on a promise, and that we postponed. We didn't cancel. And we're actually thrilled. A lot of people haven't seen it in our neighborhood in northern Manhattan, particularly up here. And how has the festival run gone?
It's gone really, really well. There's 3 because the documentary goes over 25 years. We weren't able to shoot B-roll for everything, and so Emelda decided, let's make like these animated pieces. So there's 3 animated pieces about Malcolm, like when he first came to New York, and then basically he was an actor, and he was roommates with Philip Seymour Hoffman for 2.5 years.
Right.
Right as Philip was just
taken off,
hitting. Yeah, and and so we just won an award for animation at the Antwerp Film Festival.
It's amazing. Emelda O'Reilly, by the way, is who you mentioned, the Emelda we're talking about so affectionately.
Right.
Well, thanks for the primer about what it's about, and we're looking forward to bring it to our community up here in Inwood. And you said it was shot on location in Ireland, and on the non-animated cinematography that you did for the show, how did you approach framing that story in relationship with the animation? Like, did you take that in mind? How are you pairing it with the live action?
Well, we wanted the live action. Well, basically, we just had Malcolm, and we were able to. We had some. He had a lot of 8mm film as a child, and a lot of what he talks about in the film is his relationship with his father and his mother, which were contentious, and which is part of what drove him to leave Ireland at that time. And then, so we had that footage, and then we shot. He lives basically in the Garden of Ireland, which is Limerick, and basically he, when he's working, he usually does, take like a 2-hour hike a day, So we followed him through the mountains of Limerick.
I wish I had 2 hours off to take a hike
yes,
to Ireland.
Well,
what a great job.
Yeah, it helps that he gets up at 5 o'clock in the morning.
That does help. Yeah, I hear you. I'm not that disciplined. Are you that disciplined?
No, not at all. Not at all.
Well, it's safe. We're looking forward to showing it here at the festival, and it's safe to say you're one of our favorite filmmakers locally here. I mean, you've had Eggs and Soldiers, Brief Reunion, and Forbidden Cuba, all presented as official selections over the years.
Yeah, and I just want to thank you for programming for Forbidden Cuba, because we'd shot in Cuba for 19 days with no permits and no permission, and then we had to come back a year later and film more, and so it was really a difficult film. And when we didn't get into a lot of big festivals, we sort of shelved it a little bit, just because we were just trying to, get some juice back. But you programmed it, and after you programmed it, it went on to like almost a dozen other film festivals that did really, helped us a lot. Arizona Film Festival, Big Sur Film Festival. It was, so basically you and the Inwood Film Festival sort of launched that out into the world. And now it's.
That means a lot. I love, thank you. And I love hearing that. That's what, it's funny when you have a festival, it's just basically about what's in the room, for the most part. You can't really control. Well, then sometimes you really can't control what's in the room either. But putting the eyeballs on the screen is I feel like my job as curator, and trying to do my best and everything I can to get it out there. And the fact that it went on and it gave some energy and maybe catapulted it to more life, that's the biggest compliment I could possibly get. So thank you. And Art Jones, by the way, was the driving force with Joe behind it. And Art's a great guy and prolific filmmaker in his own right, and deserves full credit for this whole show. Yes. And the bringing up the vigilante style, you guys. What's right? Not vigilante style. Because that means like you're wreaking havoc. But the what do you call it? Guerrilla style. Yes. I almost said ghetto style, guerrilla style.
In the spirit of Che.
In the spirit of Che, totally. but no one was harmed in the making of this film. Okay, so just making sure that was out there first. Okay.
Yes.
And you should go check it out because it is available online, I believe.
Yes.
Cuba is available online.
ForbiddenCuba.com.
So, what has this neighborhood meant to you as a cultural home? Because you Eggs and Soldiers was shot here at location. You live here in the neighborhood.
Yes,
just curious, like, how has it affected you as a filmmaker and having this as your home base?
Right. Well, so basically, I moved here quite a while ago when I was going to graduate school at Columbia, and it just sort of allowed me. It was the parks, Inwood Park, and all the parks are really great because I was able to go out running and walking in the parks and just clear my head a lot of times. But it was also a little bit away from all the chaos that's around Columbia and all downtown. So it was a lot of respite. But then also just in the neighborhood, we just found a lot of interesting people and little interesting locations. So we've actually shot in like 4 bars in Inwood. Eggs and Soldiers we shot at the Irish Brigade, which is no longer.
Right.
But we were the last film to shoot there. And then we shot at the Liffey 2. And then the Buddha Bar, we shot a music video there. And then there was another bar. There's another bar on 183rd Street, so that's actually in Washington Heights. So
it's all one neighborhood, really, but Inwood is different, I will say. But Washington Heights is still part of the neighborhood, essentially.
Yes,
But
I also do feel like there's a pretty good community of people here who keep on, trying to boost each other up, which is what I found. Which is, at the Inwood Film Festival, I always feel when go there or been invited there and screenings, people are really curious and really supportive and really, trying to push things forward.
Yeah, and a bunch of go-getters and, the mission behind Inwood Artworks, which presents all of our programming, including the Inwood Film Festival, is that our mission is to create and curate professional and visual arts and performing arts in our community here. And, it's championing local artists, brings that duality by doing one, it cultivates this local arts going audience because it is hyper local. Like we're not championing local artists and presenting the films in Westchester or Battery Park or something. They have their own. Harlem has its own scene. That's suppose the strangest thing because I came from somewhere else too, and noticing like there's wonderful people like you and Emelda living here. And it's this embarrassment of artists live in the neighborhood, but there's zero venues and there's zero. You had to go downtown or out of town to work and or to our 125th is our closest movie theater, right. So that's just a strange. It was a strange. It was paradoxical in a way, and so I'm glad that we can. This Inwood Artworks has still remained around, and I agree with you. The only reason why we're still here, and the only reason why the film festival is still here, and it's our 5th annual. Finally, it's like 5th annual is taking 3 years to do, but it will be our 5th, and maybe that's even more of a great badge when a film festival reaches 5 years. That we reached 5 years in spite of the pandemic, we will knock on everything. And that, it's a very curious community, but a very supportive community. And, the fact that there's so many wonderful artists here to champion and to inspire each other and collaborate, I think is pretty special, don't you?
Yes. Yeah. No, it's the people that I've met at the, at Inwood Artworks and the film festival, I've been able to make short films with them and things like that. And it's been really, I've really enjoyed that.
Well, let's switch gears for a second. And speaking of art, too, kind of segues as well. Can you tell listeners about Stand By Your Mail, the People's Postal Rescue Campaign project you're also involved with?
Right. Yes. Yeah. And so basically when the pandemic happened, Art Jones and Pascal, Anthony. So there was basically 10 of us who we started a Thursday night Zoom call, and so we'd be on the Zoom for 2 hours. And basically the first 3 weeks we just complained about how awful things were for us, But like on the 4th weekend, this sound engineer, Anthony Aurora, said, and this was in 2019. And he said, I just read this thing that the U.S. Post Office is going to run out of money in September, so they're not going to be able to do any mail-in ballots for the election. The election that year with Biden and the former president, and so he said, maybe we should stop complaining so much, and we should start putting something together to try and raise awareness about the fate of the post office. And so basically we spent the whole summer and up until December just making videos and graphic things, and so we got a website, YouTube channel, Instagram, Twitter, all these things, and a Facebook page. And we got a lot of people, and we interviewed a lot of professors from Columbia and from University of Chicago, and people from Berkeley, and so it's been very interesting, and we still keep it going. And there's also posts about these cute little stamps and tell little stories about stamps. So it's sort of fun.
That's awesome. I love it. I love it. Well, you've produced so many projects, and is there a particular show you've worked on or done that you're most proud of? Like, do you have like one that is kind of like they put on your tombstone, so to speak, that you're so proud of?
Well, I mean, Forbidden Cuba was a great project, but there was a feature film that I shot in Cambodia called Down This Road, which was about these three young women who they basically, when they were in high school, they won this singing competition, and they had some 2 or 3 big hits in Cambodia, and they were rising stars. But somebody slept with somebody's boyfriend, and things all blew up. And one went to Los Angeles, one went to Paris, and one stayed in Cambodia. But the grandfather, there was 2 cousins, and there were 3 cousins, and the grandfather brought them all together and told them all about the music. And so when he passed away, they all came back together, and at the funeral, they were given his ashes, which they were supposed to spread around the country, and also his diary of how he got through Khmer Rouge, and how the Cambodian music, like the rock and roll and the traditional music, sort of helped push him through all the bad stuff during the Khmer Rouge. And then it's then the 3 girls, again they get a friendship back, and then they start singing again, and it was a lot of fun. It was like a lot of history, but also a lot of fun, and it's also a little bit, Gossip Girl as well.
You got to have the light stuff to make the dark stuff happen, right?
Yes, yeah, and that's Ian Masters who oversaw the screenplay, was just amazing, like bringing all these pieces into it.
So fascinating. And where can we find this film? If anywhere, please tell us we can.
It's on my website. I can give you a link to it on my website.
I'm ready to go right now. Let's stop the podcast and go on film. I also want to highlight that about Fascinate Films, which is a boutique film company based between New York and Ireland that is run by Emelda O'Reilly and yourself.
Yes.
You currently have a feature film in development that I want to mention as a co-production titled We're the Kids in America, which tells the stories about 3 generations of Irish fathers and sons.
Yes, yeah. And so basically, Emelda, We're the Kids in America, basically, Emelda had made this film called Eggs and Soldiers about an Irish construction worker in New York City who finally has his 2 sons together on Christmas. His youngest son, he has 2 sons by 2 different mothers, and his youngest son is half Dominican and has never experienced an Irish Christmas. So at 6 years old, he's like all psyched that he's finally getting an Irish Christmas. And so the father picks them up and he drops them off and says, "Okay, go inside. I'm going to go to the bar. I'm going to cash the check. I'll be right back with the Christmas tree." Of course, he doesn't come back with the Christmas tree. And the older son, who's half Irish and half American, he's got a girlfriend downtown. He's got this vinyl that a present, and her parents are gone. And so he really wants to get downtown. But his 6-year-old brother is like, I want an Irish Christmas. Is this what an Irish Christmas is? And so when the father comes back without the Christmas tree, things get a little dark. But you see that the 16-year-old son, rises through it and gives, the next morning he gives his brother this Christmas tree. And so Emelda, we'd made that film, and it premiered at the Inwood Film Festival, which was great. But Emelda sort of took those characters and spread them out over like 3 generations. So it's Easter. So it's Easter in 1954 with the grandfather and the grandmother and their children. things go awry. And then it's 1987, and it's Halloween Halloween. And again, the father and son are there, and so there's all stuff that happens there, and there's a lot of talk about like female empowerment and how in Ireland at that time there was these 3 or 4 women who were rising up in the politics, and how and then we cut to 2017 Christmas Eve. And so that screenplay had gotten into L'Atelier at Cannes, at the Cannes Film Festival in 2018. And so we had an American producer, Barbara DeFina, and an Irish producer, Edwina Forkin. And now we're trying to raise $2 million. So if you have $2 million, we'd happy to.
Or even 1.8, we'll take that.
Yes, yeah. So we're just sort of navigating that and talking to the Irish Film Board and. Yeah, so it's tricky.
Well, I hope that movie gets made because we've already seen a taste of it at the film festival, and wow, what a great thing! And would you shoot on location here at all? And what do you think again?
We would love to. I think it would be less expensive to shoot in Toronto or Montreal. Right.
Because of tax credits.
Yeah, and it's also quite possible we could shoot the whole thing in Canada. The Irish section, 2/3 of it take place in Ireland, and we could shoot that in Prince Edward Island or Newfoundland, and then the New York portions could be shot in Toronto or Montreal.
Gotcha. Well, I for one am looking forward to it because it's so homegrown Inwood and New York story-wise anyway. But I just want to see this film be made, and I know you guys have a lot behind
so
it.
Emelda and I had the film we had made before Eggs and Soldiers, we'd shot in Morocco, which was tricky. So then Emelda, so her next film, Eggs and Soldiers, says, okay, we're gonna shoot everything within 10 blocks of our house. Which is what we did, and it really wasn't any easier.
It really wasn't any easier, huh? I know. The permits are tough here, right? It's just it's tough.
Yeah, it wasn't. Yeah, it was just everything. It was great, but the amazing thing was about the community here in Inwood. So people really supported us. The Irish Brigade, they threw the doors open, said whatever you need, and then and then a lot of, and we did. There's a few people who worked on the film who were from the city,
Gotcha.
From Inwood.
Gotcha. Well, Joe, what haven't we hit yet? We want to hit something else for you. You want to talk about the Sopranos project?
Oh, sure. So basically, I'd worked with Cirque Productions. They're in Long Island City now. They had. So I'd worked with Chris Fraga, who's the director there, a number of times. In 2001 on Anytown, USA, which was a political documentary, and then on all these things coming up. And he works a lot with Abrams Books, and so he gets hired to do a lot of graphics. The company does a lot of graphics. But Abrams was putting together this book with the two film critics who basically Matthew Sykes and I forget the other guy's name, but basically they were 23 and 27 at the times when the Sopranos were coming out, and so they just started writing about the Sopranos, and they just as it was coming out and as it was happening, and then on the 20th anniversary in 2019 of the premiere of it, they decided to put together a book about the Sopranos Bible, basically, about every episode and talk to all the actors and all the directors and the camera people about what it was like. And so Abrams Books said, we want you, they told Chris, we want you to get, can you get 10, 30-second sound bites that we can put up on Twitter? So Chris said, okay, well, let's shoot it at Halston's ice cream shop, which is where the very last scene of The Sopranos takes place, the controversial last scene. So we shot there, and we had Matthew and Ellen just sitting at the booth where Tony and Edie Falco were. And we shot them talking for an hour and a half, basically. And then, and Chris got back, and he, that night he was trying to edit it together and trying to cut it together, just to grab like 10 little clips. And he goes, I think we have a movie here. And so basically he took, the hour and a half conversation, he cut it down to about an hour long. And then he just, and it's really fascinating conversation. And it's just 3 shots. It's just a wide shot and 2 shots.
It's like My Dinner with Andre.
It is. My Dinner with Alan, which is what it's called.
Exactly.
So they shot that. And then they also shot 2 other portions of it with 4 of the actors called The Last Supper. And then they finally got David Chase, the creator of it, to talk about it. Yeah.
Awesome. Sopranos have a little connection here. Jason Minter, who's one of our co-founders of the Inwood Film Festival, was the assistant David Chase for many years on Sopranos.
Right.
So
yes,
tying that together, the little Bo Inwood connection too.
Yeah. Well, whenever people come up, I said, "Oh, let's go to Indian Road Cafe," and and then we'd sit down and I say, "These." So all the furniture in the place comes from. Johnny Ventimiglia. The actor Johnny Ventimiglia played the cook who was Tony's best friend. And he had got a restaurant that Tony helped pay for, but then Tony blew up. Spoiler alert. But when they blew up, it was the end of the season, and they said, "Oh, well, we need to throw all this stuff out." And Jason was like, maybe I'm going to transition to something else. And so he opened up the Indian Road Cafe, and then all the tables and chairs are from Artie Bucco's restaurant.
Great Easter egg trivia on that one, folks. Well, Joe, it's been a pleasure having you here on Inwood Artworks On Air. Listeners, can you tell where to go to find more about you and your work? JoeFoleyDP.com, and then Fascinate Productions, or EmeldaO'Reilly.com as well. Excellent. Well, we'll put those links in the description of this episode so we can direct people to you and Emelda and Fascinate. So thanks again, Joe.
All right. No, thank you. I really appreciate, the invitation, and it's always great to talk to you and see what the 7,000 things you're doing with Inwood Artworks.
Do what I can, but this one right now is the most important one right here. So everyone, Joe Foley, everybody. Thanks again, Joe, for joining me on this Artist Spotlight episode of Inwood Artworks On Air. It's where we meet the musicians, filmmakers, writers, theater makers, and artists of all stripes that make their home here in Upper Manhattan. If you have a moment, please show us some love right now by rating and reviewing this podcast on Apple Podcasts. That really does help. Many thanks to Church of Good Shepherd here in Inwood NYC for hosting us on location, and also to Heightsites.com for uptown promotional support. You can support On Air and all of our programming by making a tax-free donation, if you would, at inwoodartworks.nyc/donate. Be sure to follow us on social media at Inwood Artworks to keep up with all that we do, which includes the Inwood Film Festival, Filmworks Al Fresco, pop-up art galleries, live performances, and so much more. Inwood Artworks On Air is proud to be supported in part by public funds from the New York City Department of Cultural Affairs in partnership with City Council. From the top of Manhattan and the bottom of our hearts, thank you so much for tuning in. This is Aaron Sims for Inwood Artworks On Air.